Hi, everyone. My name is Regina McClinton, and I am so excited to be coming to Pittsburgh to work with you all. We're going to be learning a new intelligence, relatively new intelligence called cultural intelligence, a bit similar to emotional intelligence. Cultural intelligence focuses on your skill set to be effective in working across cultural differences. This is the framework I use to do my work because interactions you have pretty much outside of your family and sometimes inside your family is a cross-cultural interaction. Culture is the norms, values, and beliefs that a group of people hold in common. And so if the norms, values, and beliefs that you hold are different than your students or faculty members, staff, the other people you're interacting with, because you get everybody, even patients that you work with. Each of these is a cross-cultural interaction. One of the things I love about cultural intelligence is that you can learn where you are, how good or developed your skill set is, and then do work to improve your skill set. And it turns out it doesn't really take a lot, but it does take continual practice. So let's take a brief look at cultural intelligence to set you up for doing the assessments that you'll take. And then I will see you soon. Let's get started. And what is culture? It is the values and beliefs, language, communication, and practices that a shared group of people have in common. As we see here, it covers a multitude of categories. Now, if we think about this in more specifics, there are things that we easily see that are part of culture, like language or dress or holidays or food, my particular favorite way to learn about a different culture. But those are only parts of what is the iceberg of culture, and that's what is above level. It is the components that are under the surface that really make understanding culture and working across cultural differences challenging. For example, belief systems, humor, body language, personal space, thought patterns, and more. All of these compromise culture and give us an idea of why it can be difficult to understand a different culture fully. In our own cultures, we usually have an idea of what is going on around us because we have this wealth of information, which is the culture in which we were raised. It is the culture we are accustomed to, and most of that information tends to be in our subconscious. In my own culture, one says, "Yes, ma'am," to an older woman. If someone is in need, you give what you can. These are really automatic responses for me or actions, and they tend to be in our subconscious and help us to make sense of what we experience and observe. It turns out that higher education is facing many issues, and some of these are actually rooted in cultural differences, including multiple generations in the workforce and the laboratory and the classroom. Falling student retention and completion rates have a cultural component, as one reason for this is students are leaving higher education because they don't feel a sense of belonging to the institution. Understanding culture is a strong driver in the recruitment of women and people from marginalized groups into STEM. What are their needs? How is it they see things versus what has been the traditional STEM workforce of white men? And hybrid education has its own culture, and that competes with the cultures of those participating on both sides of the screen. So when issues are based in cross-cultural interactions, success in those cross-cultural interactions is seen when participants utilize cultural intelligence, and let's take a look at that. Cultural intelligence is the capability to function and relate effectively in culturally diverse situations. Now, when we interact with individuals who have a different cultural background, The same cues, social and behavioral, may mean something entirely different. So understanding this and navigating those differences are signs of a strong CQ skill set. Now, research was done to understand why some people are effective in cross-cultural interactions while others are not. And what research found is that there are skills that those that are effective have in common, that those that are not effective lack. And they also found that if you are lacking those skills, you can develop them and grow to improve and increase your cultural intelligence. So cultural intelligence, or CQ, is a set of skills that you can develop and improve. It is not an innate quality. And let's learn a bit more. There are 4 general capabilities for cultural intelligence. The first is CQ drive, which is your level of interest, persistence, and confidence during multicultural interactions. Now, some people just like getting to know people, and I tend to fall into that category. And this is more intrinsic motivation. Some people are driven to get to know another culture because it has benefits, perhaps to their job, and that's extrinsic motivation. Either one will do, but in addition to which kind of motivation you have, you also need to be confident in your ability to get to know someone from another culture. Then we have CQ knowledge, which is your understanding about how cultures are similar and different. Now, we would never ask you to become an expert in a specific culture. Instead, this is understanding those cultural components and how those function and can be different in another culture. For example, do you understand how businesses can be different in different cultures, or religions and religious practices can be different in different cultures? So even if everyone is a Christian in your group, if they're coming from different cultures, the way they practice Christianity or Islam or insert name of religion here will be different because they have learned that religion within a cultural context. The way in which people talk, being direct or indirect, or falling somewhere along the spectrum that exists between those 2 endpoints, is rooted in culture. Whether the culture is cooperative, meaning people tend to do things by cooperating with each other, being much more group-based, if you will, or competitive, where people get the best out of themselves and others by competing against them. All of these are components of knowing how a culture functions, and we'll learn more when I come to visit and speak with you. Next, we have CQ strategy, which is your awareness and ability to plan for multicultural interactions. So I remember being in grad school, and some of our graduate students were from Spanish-speaking countries. We had several from Central and South America. So they threw a party and they invited me. And as I walked in the door, the people that I knew said, "Today, we will only speak in Spanish. There will be no English." And that was literally the last English I heard that night. I said I understood. And what I had was a decent level of Spanish speaking ability. But it took me a while, right, when someone would speak to me to process what they were saying and then what my response should be. But the biggest component is that I expected that this party would be solely in Spanish, and I prepared for that. I brushed up on my Spanish language skills so as to be prepared and to be effective. And then finally, we have CQ action, which is your ability to adapt when relating and working in multicultural context. I used to be part of the American Society of Plant Biologists, and I organized a panel for our annual meeting. Afterwards, I took all the speakers to dinner. For one speaker, his natural distance when having a conversation with someone, let's just say it gets measured in inches. My natural comfort zone for speaking with someone pretty much can be measured in feet. And so when he leaned in to talk to me, it caught me off guard for a moment. And then I was fortunate that I remembered that for some people in some cultures, being close indicates interest and this intimacy of having this conversation, right? This conversation is important. And that if I took a step back, I would not be indicating that I was uncomfortable in the distance. I would instead be indicating that I was not interested in the conversation. Well, I was interested. And so I kind of had a little quick talk with myself. Now, Regina, you have to stay close, calm down. It's going to be okay. And just focus on the conversation, which is what I did. And it was a successful interaction with the gentleman. But I still have a comfort level of talking to people that can still be measured in feet. And this concludes our video for today. And again, you're going to be doing an assessment. And then I will be meeting with different cohorts of you all, sharing more about cultural intelligence and implementing it in your work and possibly also in your everyday lives. So thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you soon.